EBITDA answers a very specific question. How profitable is this business before financing and tax structure? That makes it useful for valuation. One of the most common mistakes business owners make is confusing what they believe their company is worth with how companies are actually valued. Most owners anchor on revenue, or assets, or years in the business, or even how hard they work. Banks, buyers, private equity firms, and professional advisors, they do not. When a business is evaluated for lending or acquisition or recapitalization, the starting point is always the same, EBITDA, and the multiple that they get based off their industry. This is the valuation language of the financial world, and this is where the confusion begins. Owners hear EBITDA and assume it represents financial health, cash availability, or operational safety. They believe a strong EBITDA means that the business can support debt, growth, and expansion. That assumption is dangerous. EBITDA was never designed to answer the question small business owners actually care about, which is whether the business can reliably fund itself. EBITDA removes interest. It removes taxes. It removes depreciation and amortization. Those are not abstract concepts for small businesses. They are real cash obligations. Interest is money leaving the account every month. Taxes are unavoidable and often underestimated. Depreciation represents assets that will require real cash to repair and replace. When these elements are stripped out, EBITDA can create an illusion of strength where fragility actually exists. This is how owners get misled. They see positive EBITDA and they assume the business can handle even more debt. They hire ahead of cash reality. They expand before working capital can support it. Then pressure shows up. Payroll tightens. Taxes surprise them. Equipment fails with no reserve to replace it. The numbers do not lie. They just don't tell the whole story. EBITDA answers a very specific question. How profitable is this business before financing and tax structure? That makes it useful for valuation. It makes it useful for comparison. It makes it useful for banks and buyers. It does not make it sufficient for running a small business on a day-to-day basis. This disconnect is especially dangerous around debt. Banks may size loans off EBITDA, but debt is not paid with EBITDA. Debt is paid with cash. A business can show a solid EBITDA and still struggle to meet monthly obligations if cash timing is tight or capital needs are really high. This shows up constantly in asset-intensive businesses, trades, manufacturing, logistics, any business where equipment matters. Depreciation looks harmless on paper, but in reality, it represents machines that are eventually going to demand cash. EBITDA treats that future cost as irrelevant. Cash flow does not. Owner compensation adds another layer of distortion. In many small businesses, EBITDA excludes true owner pay. The business looks profitable only because the owner is underpaying themselves. That is not profitability. That is subsidy. A business that cannot support fair owner compensation is not healthy, regardless of its EBITDA. Then there's tax exposure. Small businesses do not have the luxury of indefinite deferral or complex tax shelters. Taxes hit when they hit. EBITDA ignores that entirely. So owners feel successful on paper and constrained in reality. That tension, that's a signal. The issue is not the EBITDA is wrong. The issue is that it's incomplete. EBITDA should never be used alone in a small business. It must be paired with cash-based measures, like your operating cash flow, free cash flow, debt service coverage, working capital movement. Those numbers answer real questions. Can the business pay its obligations? Can it absorb shocks? Can it grow without constant stress? When owners treat EBITDA as a proxy for health, they overextend. When they prioritize cash alongside EBITDA, decisions become more deliberate instead of reactive. EBITDA belongs in the valuation conversations. Cash belongs in operating decisions. EBITDA is the lens. Cash is the ground. You cannot run a small business from a lens alone. If EBITDA looks strong, but the business feels tight, trust that feeling. it usually means something critical is missing from the picture. Healthy businesses do not just look profitable, they feel stable. And stability shows up in cash first. That's all for this week. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. And until then, stay profitable.